You ruined everything for a one-night stand.
The key didn't fit anymore. I stood outside what used to be my apartment building on Maple Street, holding the brass key that had opened my front door for 8 years. 18 months in county lockup, and they'd changed the locks. Hell, they'd changed everything. The building had a fresh coat of paint, new security cameras, and a sign that made my blood run cold. Monroe Development Properties. Jax Monroe. My wife's boss. My wife's lover. My destroyer. The November wind cut through my thin jacket as I walked around the building's perimeter. Nobody looked at me twice. Prison does that to a man, makes him invisible. Good. I needed to be invisible now. My truck was parked 3 blocks away, everything I owned crammed into the bed under a tarp. 2 duffel bags, a cooler, and the bitter taste of justice denied. Nathan Hale, former city building inspector, convicted of taking bribes I never took, betrayed by people I trusted, released with nothing but anger and time. The coffee shop across from my old building had Wi-Fi. I ordered black coffee with my last $5 and opened the laptop I'd bought at a pawn shop. Time to do what I did best, inspect things carefully, starting with public records. Melissa Hale, she'd kept my name, probably for the legal paperwork, had filed for divorce 3 weeks after my conviction. Irreconcilable differences. The house we'd bought together was sold to cover legal expenses. My 1967 Mustang, the one I'd restored with my own hands, sold to a collector in Phoenix for $30,000, all of it gone. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was sitting in the corner booth of that coffee shop, watching through the window as my replacement life played out. Melissa walked out of the building at 6:47 p.m., talking on her phone, laughing. Still beautiful at 38. Still the woman I'd fallen in love with 12 years ago. She climbed into a silver BMW, Jax's car, and drove away to whatever dinner they had planned. I sat there until the coffee shop closed, making a list in my head. Not a revenge list, an inspection list. When you're investigating building code violations, you start with the foundation and work your way up. Same principle applied here. My phone buzzed. Text from George Volta, my old partner from the inspector's office. Heard you were out. Meet me at Murphy's Bar tomorrow, 8 p.m. Got things to tell you. George was the only person who'd visited me in county, the only one who believed I was innocent. If anyone had the real story, it was him. I drove to the Walmart parking lot and made my bed in the truck cab. Tomorrow, I'd start building my case. Tonight, I stared at the ceiling and remembered the last thing Melissa had said to me before the trial. Just tell them what they want to hear, Nathan. We can start over. There wouldn't be any starting over. Murphy's Bar smelled like sawdust and broken dreams. George was already there, nursing a beer in the back booth, looking older than his 55 years. Prison had aged me, too. But George's gray hair and deep lines told a different story. The story of a man carrying secrets. You look like hell, he said as I sat down. 18 months in county will do that. I ordered whiskey. What did you find out? George pulled out a manila folder, thin but heavy with implications. Remember how your arrest happened? Anonymous tip about you taking money from contractors? Hard to forget. The tip came from inside the prosecutor's office. Someone with access to your case files, your schedule, your inspection reports. He opened the folder. I did some digging after your conviction. Melissa was feeding information to the DA's office through her law firm connections. My hand stopped halfway to the whiskey glass. What? Gets worse. The bribery case they built against you? 3 contractors testified you took money. I tracked down 2 of them. Both work for Monroe Development now. Good jobs, full benefits, all hired within 6 months of your trial. The whiskey burned, but not as much as the truth. She set me up. From the beginning. But here's the thing that'll really twist your guts. She was sleeping with Jax before your arrest. Amanda confirmed it. Amanda, Melissa's younger sister, the one who'd promised to help me find a good lawyer, who'd visited me twice in county and sworn she believed in my innocence. Amanda told you this? She's got a guilty conscience. Broke down crying in a Starbucks, told me everything. Melissa and Jax planned the whole thing. They needed you out of the way because you were getting too close to some building code violations in their downtown development project. You remember the Winston Street project? I remembered. 17-story mixed-use building, fast-tracked through permits, some irregularities in the foundation specs that I'd flagged for review. The review that never happened because I got arrested the week before. They're cutting corners on everything, buying off inspectors, bribing city council members, falsifying environmental reports. Your arrest wasn't just about getting rid of an inconvenient husband. It was about protecting a $50 million project. George slid a business card across the table. Jax is hiring security guards for his construction sites. Night shift, $12 an hour, no background checks if you use the right name. I got you an ID. The card had my photo, but a different name. Nick Hall. Close enough to my real name to remember, different enough to fly under the radar. Why are you helping me? I asked. Because they destroyed a good man for money. Because the system failed you. Because... He finished his beer. Because I should have done more when it mattered. I studied the fake ID. Nick Hall, construction security guard. It would get me close to Jax's operation, close enough to see how deep the corruption ran. There's something else, George said. Your house didn't just get sold for legal expenses. Melissa forged your signature on the deed transfer. I've got the handwriting analysis to prove it. She made herself sole owner, then sold it and kept the money. That's fraud. Yes, it is. Federal fraud if she used the mail system, which she did. But you need evidence that will hold up in court, not just my word and a handwriting expert. I pocketed the fake ID. Then I better get to work. The Riverside construction site sat on 12 acres of former industrial land that Jax had bought for pennies on the dollar. During the day, it buzzed with activity. Concrete trucks, excavators, crews, pouring foundations. At night, it belonged to me. The security job was perfect. 12-hour shifts, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., walking the perimeter and checking on equipment. Mostly I sat in the trailer and watched security monitors, but I had access to the entire site and a reasonable excuse to be anywhere on the property. More importantly, I had access to Jax's on-site office. The man was arrogant enough to conduct business meetings after hours, bringing city officials and contractors to the site for informal discussions about permits and schedules. On my third night, I watched through the office window as Jax handed an envelope to Councilman Peters. Cash for votes, classic corruption, done in the open because Jax thought he was untouchable. I started keeping a log. Times, dates, license plates, photographs taken with a disposable camera. Old-school detective work, the kind that held up in court. But I wanted more than evidence of Jax's crimes. I wanted to understand how deep Melissa was involved, how long she'd been planning my destruction. The answer came during my second week on the job. I was checking the locks on the equipment shed when I heard voices from the main office trailer. Jax and someone else, a woman. Through the thin walls, conversation carried clearly. The Bar Association is asking questions about the Henderson case, the woman said. Someone filed a complaint about conflict of interest. Can you handle it? Jax's voice. I already am. Shifted the files, backdated some documents, but we need to be more careful. If they dig deeper into my cases from the last 2 years, they won't. You worry too much, Mel. Melissa. My wife was there, in the trailer, 20 yards away from me. I crept closer to the window, staying in the shadows. Through the blinds, I could see them clearly. Melissa at the desk, Jax behind her with his hands on her shoulders. Casual intimacy, the kind that comes from months or years together. What about Nathan? She asked. Amanda thinks he might try to cause trouble now that he's out. Let him try. Who's going to believe a convicted felon? Besides, he's got nothing. We made sure of that. They were wrong about that, but they didn't need to know it yet. I still think we should have handled it differently, Melissa said. The arrest, the trial, there were other ways. Like what? He was getting too close to the foundation work. Another week and he would have shut down the whole project. We saved $50 million and got rid of a problem. Win-win. He was my husband. He was a liability. And now he's not our problem anymore. I watched them through the window. These two people who'd stolen my life, planning their future on the ruins of my past. Melissa stood up, walked to the filing cabinet, pulled out a folder. The Amanda situation worries me more, she said. She's been calling, asking questions about the trial, about how we afforded the legal team. What did you tell her? Nothing yet, but she's not stupid. She knows you paid for Nathan's lawyers, and she knows they threw the case on purpose. This was new information. Amanda knew about the legal setup. My own sister-in-law had watched them destroy me and said nothing. Amanda's not a problem, Jack said. She took money to keep quiet during the trial. She's as guilty as we are now. I hope you're right. I'm always right. That's why I'm rich, and Nathan's working security for $12 an hour. They laughed. Both of them laughed at my misery, at the life they'd stolen from me. I stayed in the shadows until they left. Then I went back to the security trailer and wrote down everything I'd heard. Names, dates, admissions of guilt. The foundation of my case was getting stronger, but I needed more than evidence. I needed leverage. Isaac Reyes worked at First National Bank, processing commercial loans for small businesses and residential mortgages. He also had a gambling problem that cost him about $2,000 a month at the Riverside Casino. I knew this because I'd spent 3 nights following him, learning his routines, understanding his weaknesses. Everyone has pressure points. Isaac's was debt. I waited for him in the bank parking lot on a Thursday morning, coffee getting cold in my hands as I watched him hurry toward the employee entrance. Thin, nervous energy, checking his phone constantly. A man under stress. Isaac Reyes? I approached him near the door. He looked up, startled. Do I know you? Nathan Hale. I think we need to talk about some loans you processed for my wife. His face went white. I don't know what you were talking about. Melissa Hale. 2 property transfers, both using forged signatures, both approved by your department. Ring any bells? Isaac glanced around the parking lot, looking for escape routes. You can't prove anything. Actually, I can. Handwriting analysis, document forensics, bank security footage from the days the papers were filed. But I'm not here to cause problems for you, Isaac. I'm here to offer a solution. What kind of solution? The kind where you help me prove fraud and I don't mention your gambling debts to your supervisor or your wife. He was sweating now despite the cold morning air. You're blackmailing me. I'm offering you a chance to do the right thing. Help me prove what really happened, and nobody has to know about your trips to the casino or the money you borrowed from the employee credit union to cover your losses. Isaac stared at his shoes. What do you want? Copies of the loan documents. The originals, not the cleaned-up versions, and testimony about how the signatures were verified. I could lose my job. You're going to lose more than that if this comes out the wrong way. Your choice, Isaac. Help me now, or explain to federal investigators later why you approved fraudulent loans. He agreed to meet me that weekend with the documents. 1 pressure point down, several more to go. The next target was Daryl Lowe, Melissa's law partner. According to my research, Daryl had a weakness for expensive escorts and cheap morals. More importantly, he had access to all of Melissa's case files and client communications. I found him at the Marriott bar on Friday night, drunk and talkative. Approaching him directly was too risky, so I used a different strategy. I hired someone to approach him. Her name was Sarah, and she wasn't actually an escort. She was George's niece, an actress between jobs who needed quick cash and didn't mind playing a role. The plan was simple. Get Daryl talking, record the conversation, use the information as leverage. It worked better than expected. Daryl, 3 whiskeys into the evening, told Sarah about his law practice, his partners, and his concerns about some questionable cases they'd handled recently. Cases involving forged documents, bribed witnesses, and evidence tampering. We made a lot of money on the Hale case, he said, not knowing Sarah's recording device was picking up every word. Easy money. The guy never had a chance once Melissa decided to throw him under the bus. What do you mean? Sarah asked, playing the interested companion. She set him up from the beginning. Fed information to the prosecutors, convinced the key witnesses to lie, even got his own lawyers to tank the case. Brilliant, really. Ruthless but brilliant. Wasn't he her husband? Marriage is a business arrangement. When the business goes bad, you liquidate and move on. Melissa's good at business. Sarah kept him talking for another hour, getting details about forged documents, payoffs to witnesses, and the conspiracy that destroyed my life. When she gave me the recording the next day, I had enough evidence to destroy Daryl's career and implicate Melissa in multiple felonies. But I still needed the physical evidence to back up the testimony. Amanda lived in a modest duplex on the south side of town, the kind of neighborhood where people minded their own business and didn't ask too many questions. I watched her house for 3 days, learning her schedule, waiting for the right moment to approach her. She worked as a dental hygienist, left for work at 7 a.m., came home around 6 p.m., spent evenings watching TV and talking on the phone. quiet life, regular habits, no security system. On Wednesday evening, I knocked on her front door. Amanda opened it and froze when she saw me. "Nathan, I heard you were out. Can I come in? We need to talk." She hesitated, then stepped aside. The living room was neat and comfortable, decorated with family photos that included several of me and Melissa from happier times. "How have you been?" she asked, not meeting my eyes. 18 months in county jail for crimes I didn't commit. How do you think I've been? Nathan, Save it. I know about the money Jax paid you during the trial. I know about the information you fed to Melissa about my legal defense. I know about all of it, Amanda. She sat down heavily on the couch. You don't understand. They threatened me. Said if I didn't cooperate, they'd destroy my career, ruin my life. So you helped them destroy mine instead. I tried to help you. I found you lawyers. I visited you in jail. You found me lawyers who were paid to lose the case. You visited me to find out what I knew and report back to your sister. Don't lie to me now, Amanda. I've had 18 months to figure this out. She started crying, big tears that might have moved me once upon a time. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, Nathan. I never wanted it to go this far. But it did go that far. And now I need you to help me fix it. What do you want from me? The truth. In writing, on the record, everything you know about how they set me up. I can't. They'll destroy me. They already destroyed me, and you helped them do it. This is your chance to make it right. Amanda wiped her eyes with a tissue. What happens if I refuse? Then I go to the police with what I already have, and you get prosecuted as a co-conspirator in fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. Federal charges, Amanda. 5 to 10 years minimum. And if I cooperate, you testify truthfully, and I make sure the prosecutors know you were coerced. Probably probation, maybe community service. She thought about it for several minutes, staring at the family photos on her mantle. Pictures of birthday parties, holidays, weddings, normal family moments from before everything went wrong. Okay, she said finally. I'll do it, but I want protection. If Jax finds out I'm talking, he won't find out until it's too late. I spent 2 hours with Amanda that evening, recording her statement, getting details about the conspiracy, learning things that chilled my blood. The setup had been planned for months before my arrest. Melissa and Jax had discussed different ways to get rid of me. Fabricated domestic violence charges, planted evidence in my truck, even staging an accident. The bribery charge was their cleanest option. Easy to prove, hard to defend against, guaranteed to destroy my career and credibility. There's something else, Amanda said as I was preparing to leave. Something I never told anyone. What? The night before your arrest, Melissa called me. She was drunk, celebrating. She said she was glad you were finally going to get what you deserved. What I deserved? She blamed you for holding her back, said you were small-time, small-minded, that you never had any ambition. She wanted more than a building inspector's salary could provide. So she decided to upgrade. To Jax, yes. He could give her the life she wanted, money, status, connections. You were just in the way. I left Amanda's house with a recording that would destroy Melissa's life the same way she'd destroyed mine. But I wasn't done yet. I still needed to get close enough to Jax to take him down personally. My 4th week on the night security job, everything changed. I was doing my usual rounds at 2 a.m. when I noticed a light in the main office trailer that shouldn't have been there. Through the window, I could see Jax at his desk with 2 men I didn't recognize. One was tall and thin, wearing an expensive suit. The other was built like a bouncer, thick neck and scarred hands. I crept closer to listen. The Hale situation is getting complicated, the thin man was saying. He's been asking questions, talking to people he shouldn't be talking to. What kind of questions? Jax asked. About the trial, about forged documents, about money changing hands. He's building a case. How do you know this? The bouncer spoke up. We've been watching him, following him, listening to his phone calls. He's got evidence and he's planning to use it. My blood went cold. They'd been watching me, tracking my movements, monitoring my investigation. How much did they know? What do you recommend? Jax asked. Permanent solution, the bouncer said. Make it look like an accident. Guy with his record living out of a truck, drinking too much, could happen to anyone. I don't want him killed unless absolutely necessary, Jax said. Too much heat, too many questions. Can we discredit him instead? Hard to discredit a dead man, the thin man said. But we could frame him for something, plant evidence, set him up like before. He's already a convicted felon. How much more discredited can he get? Pills possession, maybe. Weapons charges, something that gets him back in prison for a long time. They were planning to destroy me again, or eliminate me if necessary. I'd pushed too hard, gotten too close, and now they were pushing back. I retreated to the security trailer and tried to think. They knew about my investigation, which meant they probably knew about Isaac, about Amanda, about George. Everyone who'd helped me was now in danger. I called George from the trailer phone. "They're on to us," I said when he answered. "Pack a bag and get out of town for a few days." What happened? They've been watching me, listening to my calls. They know about the evidence, and they're planning to stop me, permanently. Jesus, what about Isaac and Amanda? I'll warn them. But you need to disappear until this is over. What are you going to do? What I should have done from the beginning. Take the fight to them. I hung up and immediately called Isaac. No answer. I tried Amanda, straight to voicemail. Either they were screening calls or it was already too late. I left the security trailer and walked across the construction site, thinking fast. If Jax's people were watching me, they'd expect me to run or hide. Instead, I was going to do something they wouldn't expect. I was going to break into Jax's real office and steal everything I could find. The Monroe Development Building was a converted warehouse in the Arts District, 3 stories of brick and glass with Jax's private office on the top floor. Security cameras covered the parking lot and entrances, but the building was old and the security system was basic. I'd learned a few things in county jail, including how to defeat simple alarm systems and pick standard door locks. Skills I'd hoped never to use, but desperate times called for desperate measures. I waited until 3 a.m., then approached the building from the alley side where the cameras had blind spots. The rear door was protected by a magnetic contact alarm, easy to bypass if you knew how to bridge the circuit with a small piece of wire. Inside, the building was dark and quiet. I used a pen light to navigate the stairs, avoiding the motion sensors by staying close to the walls. Jax's office was on the 3rd floor, protected by a deadbolt lock that took me 15 minutes to pick. His office was exactly what I'd expected. Expensive furniture, expensive art, expensive ego. The walls were covered with photos of Jax shaking hands with politicians, judges, and business leaders, a shrine to corruption and influence. I went straight to his desk and file cabinets. Most of the important documents were in a fireproof safe behind his desk, but I found plenty of interesting material in the unlocked files. Contracts with shell companies, payments to city officials, correspondence with prosecutors and judges. And then I found the folder labeled N. Hale, Contingency. Inside were copies of all the documents from my trial, plus additional evidence that had never been presented in court. Photos of me meeting with contractors, bank records showing unexplained deposits, witness statements accusing me of demanding bribes. All of it fabricated, all of it convincing enough to destroy me. But there was more. A second folder contained plans for framing other building inspectors who'd gotten too close to Monroe Development's operations, a systematic corruption scheme designed to eliminate oversight and maximize profits. I was photographing the documents when I heard footsteps in the hallway. Multiple people, moving quietly but not silently. They'd found me. I grabbed the most important files and looked for another way out. The office had 2 windows facing the street, both 3 stories above concrete sidewalk. Not an option. The footsteps stopped outside the office door. I heard the soft sound of someone picking the lock I'd just picked myself. There was a supply closet in the corner of the office. I slipped inside and pulled the door almost closed, leaving a crack to see through. 3 men entered the office. Jax, the bouncer from the construction site, and a 3rd man I didn't recognize. They spread out, checking the windows, the desk, looking for signs of intrusion. "He was here," Jax said, examining his file cabinets. "Recent. Look at the dust patterns." "Could still be here," the bouncer said, pulling out a gun. They searched the office methodically, checking behind furniture, under the desk, in the bathroom. I held my breath in the supply closet, surrounded by office supplies and cleaning equipment, waiting for them to find me. "Check the closet," Jax ordered. The bouncer approached my hiding spot. I gripped a heavy stapler from one of the shelves, preparing to fight my way out. The closet door opened. I swung the stapler at his head, connecting with his temple. He stumbled backward, gun flying across the room. I burst out of the closet and tackled the third man before he could react. Jax ran for the door. I threw the stapler at his head, missing by inches. He escaped into the hallway, shouting for security. The bouncer was getting back to his feet, blood streaming from his scalp. I grabbed his gun and pointed it at him. "Stay down," I said. "You're dead, Hale. You know that, right? This doesn't end here." "You're right. It doesn't end here." I backed toward the window, keeping the gun trained on both men. 3 stories down, but there was a fire escape ladder on the side of the building. "Tell Jax I'll be in touch," I said, then shot out the window and climbed through. I made it to the fire escape and down to the alley before building security arrived. The stolen files were tucked inside my jacket, evidence of conspiracy and corruption that could bring down Jax's entire operation. But now I was a fugitive, breaking and entering, assault, armed robbery. They had legitimate charges against me now, not just fabricated ones. I drove to a 24-hour diner across town and spread the stolen documents on a corner booth table. What I found was worse than I'd imagined. Jax hadn't just corrupted the system, he owned it. Judges, prosecutors, city council members, building inspectors, bank officials, a network of bribery and blackmail that reached into every level of government. My case was just one small part of a massive criminal enterprise. But the most damning evidence was a folder labeled insurance policies. Inside were compromising photos, financial records, and personal information about dozens of public officials. Blackmail material designed to ensure their continued cooperation, including photos of Melissa with City Prosecutor David Walsh, the man who'd built the case against me. The photos were date-stamped 2 weeks before my arrest. Melissa had been sleeping with the prosecutor while they were planning my destruction. I used the diner's phone to call a reporter I knew at the local newspaper. Janet Cruz had covered my trial, and she'd always seemed skeptical of the prosecution's case. "Janet, it's Nathan Hale." "Nathan, Jesus, I heard you were out. How are you holding up?" "I've got a story for you. The biggest corruption scandal this city has ever seen." "I'm listening." Jax Monroe, Melissa Hale, Prosecutor David Walsh, and about 30 other public officials involved in a conspiracy to manipulate the legal system for profit. "I've got documents, recordings, photographs, everything you need. Where are you? I'll come to you." "Can't do that. They're hunting me now. But I can get you the evidence. Meet me at Lincoln Park tomorrow at noon." "Come alone." "Nathan, if this is some kind of revenge fantasy, it's not revenge, it's justice. And if you don't want the story, I'll find someone who does." She agreed to meet me. One way or another, the truth was going to come out. Lincoln Park at noon was busy with joggers, dog walkers, and office workers on lunch break. Perfect cover for a clandestine meeting. I sat on a bench near the pond, a manila envelope full of evidence beside me, waiting for Janet Cruz. She arrived 15 minutes late, looking nervous and checking over her shoulder. "This better be good, Nathan. I'm risking my career meeting with you. Your career will be made when you publish this story." I handed her the envelope. She opened it and scanned the contents, her eyes widening as she realized what she was looking at. "My God, this is... Where did you get all this? Does it matter? Can you verify it independently?" "Some of it, yes. These bank records, the city contracts, the photographs, but some of this looks like it was obtained illegally. Everything that matters can be confirmed through public records and legitimate sources. I'm just pointing you in the right direction." Janet studied the photos of Melissa and Prosecutor Walsh. "This explains a lot about your trial. The prosecution seemed to know your defense strategy in advance." "Because they did. Melissa was feeding them information while sleeping with the prosecutor. My own wife was working for the other side." "What do you want from me?" "I want you to publish the truth, all of it. Every corrupt deal, every bribed official, every life they've destroyed? And what about you? There's going to be blowback. These people won't go down quietly." "Let me worry about that." Janet packed the documents back into the envelope. "I'll need a few days to verify everything and write the story. Can you stay out of trouble that long?" "I'll try." She left, and I walked back to my truck parked 6 blocks away. The evidence was in motion now, beyond Jax's ability to suppress or control. But I wasn't done yet. I still had personal business to settle. Amanda was waiting for me at my truck, sitting on the tailgate like she'd been there for hours. "They came to my house," she said without looking up. "Jax and 2 other men. They know I talked to you." "What did they want?" They wanted me to recant my statement. Say I lied, that you threatened me, that you're unstable and dangerous, and I told them to go to hell. I studied her face, looking for signs of deception. Amanda had betrayed me once already. Could I trust her now? They offered me money, she continued. A lot of money. Enough to pay off my house, start over somewhere else. But you turned it down. I turned it down. What they did to you was wrong, Nathan. I should have stopped it when I had the chance. Why didn't you? Because I was scared. Because Melissa convinced me it was the only way to protect everyone. Because I'm a coward. She finally looked at me and I saw something I hadn't expected. Genuine remorse. What did you tell them? I asked. That my statement stands, that I'll testify if necessary. That they can threaten me all they want. But I'm done being afraid. They'll try to discredit you. Let them try. I've got nothing left to lose. That made two of us. Amanda left, and I drove across town to the law offices of Crane, Lowe, and Associates. It was time to confront Melissa directly. The law firm occupied 2 floors of a glass office building in the financial district. Expensive, professional, respectable. Everything Melissa had wanted when she married me, everything I couldn't provide on a building inspector's salary. I walked through the lobby like I belonged there, took the elevator to the 7th floor, and approached the receptionist's desk. I'm here to see Melissa Hale, I said. Do you have an appointment? I'm her husband. The receptionist's face showed recognition and concern. Let me check if she's available. She made a quick phone call, spoke in hushed tones, then hung up. She'll see you in conference room B, down the hall, 3rd door on the right. Conference room B was all glass and chrome, designed to intimidate. Melissa was already there when I arrived, sitting at the far end of a long table, looking every inch the successful attorney in her tailored suit and perfect makeup. Hello, Nathan. Melissa, you look good. Prison must have agreed with you. County jail. And no, it didn't agree with me. She gestured to a chair across from her. Please, sit. We should talk. Yes, we should. We should talk about a lot of things. I sat down but didn't relax. This was enemy territory now, and Melissa was no longer the woman I'd married. She was a stranger who happened to share my name. I know why you're here, she said, and I understand why you're angry, but what's done is done. We need to think about the future now. The future? What future is that, Melissa? A future where we both move on with our lives. You've been through enough, and frankly, so have I. This war between us isn't helping anyone. War? Is that what you call it when you destroy someone's life for money? I call it survival. You were never going to be enough for me, Nathan. I needed more than you could give me. I'm sorry it had to happen the way it did, but I'm not sorry it happened. There it was. The truth, finally. No pretense, no apology, no remorse. Just cold calculation and self-interest. So you had me framed for crimes I didn't commit. I had you removed as an obstacle to my happiness. It wasn't personal. It was completely personal. No, it was business, and now that business is concluded. I'm willing to make you a generous offer to settle things between us. What kind of offer? $100,000 cash. Enough to start over somewhere else, build a new life. All you have to do is disappear. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think you can buy me off? I think you're a practical man who understands that revenge is expensive and rarely satisfying. Take the money, Nathan. Walk away? Like you walked away from our marriage? Our marriage was over long before your arrest. We both knew it. I didn't know it. I thought we were building something together. You were building a small, ordinary life. I wanted more. So you took more. You took everything. Melissa opened her briefcase and pulled out a cashier's check. This is real money, Nathan. More than you'll make in 5 years as a security guard. Take it and go. I stared at the check. $100,000. Blood money paid for my silence and disappearance. There's just one problem with your offer, I said. What's that? I'm not the same man you married. Prison changed me. Your betrayal changed me. I don't want money anymore, Melissa. I want justice. Justice? You want revenge? Maybe there's no difference. I stood up and walked toward the door. Nathan, she called after me. If you don't take this deal, things are going to get very bad for you. Jax has resources you can't imagine. People who will do anything he tells them to do. Then he better tell them to be careful. Because I'm not the victim anymore. I left the conference room and walked out of the law firm, leaving Melissa and her blood money behind. The war was far from over. Isaac Reyes was waiting in his car outside the bank when I arrived at closing time. He looked terrified, constantly checking his mirrors and jumping at every sound. "They know," he said as soon as I got in his car. "Jax's people came to the bank today. They asked my supervisor about me, about my work, about my personal life." "What did your supervisor tell them?" "Nothing, I hope, but they'll be back. And next time they might not be so polite." "Did you bring the documents?" Isaac handed me a thick manila folder. "Everything you asked for. The original loan applications, the signature verification reports, the internal memos about the irregularities, it's all there." I flipped through the documents. Clear evidence of fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. Melissa's signature on documents I'd never seen. My signature forged on papers I'd never signed. "This is good work, Isaac. This will hold up in court. Will it matter if we're both dead?" "We're not going to be dead. But you need to disappear for a while. Take a vacation. Visit relatives out of state. Get away from here until this is over." "I can't afford a vacation." "The gambling debts, the credit union loan. Take this." I handed him $500 from my dwindling savings. "Go somewhere safe and stay there." Isaac looked at the money like it was a lifeline. "Why are you helping me?" "I helped them destroy you." "Because you're helping me rebuild, and because we all make mistakes when we're scared." He drove away, and I walked back to my truck with the evidence that would destroy Melissa's career and probably send her to prison. But I wanted more than legal justice. I wanted her to feel what I'd felt. The helplessness, the betrayal, the loss of everything that mattered. I wanted her to understand what she'd done to me. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Nathan Hale? Who's asking?" "Detective Jenna Ballard, Financial Crimes Unit. I think we should meet." "About what?" "About Monroe Development, about your ex-wife, and about a corruption investigation that's been running for 8 months." "Can you meet me tonight?" This was unexpected. "Where?" "Denny's on 5th Street, 9 o'clock. Come alone." She hung up before I could ask more questions. Detective Ballard was younger than I'd expected, maybe 35, with short black hair and intelligent eyes that missed nothing. She was already in a corner booth when I arrived, nursing coffee and studying a thick case file. "Mr. Hale, thank you for coming." I sat across from her, wary. "How did you get my number?" "We've been monitoring communications related to Monroe Development for months. Your name came up frequently." "Monitoring communications? You mean wiretaps?" "I mean a comprehensive investigation into corruption in city government." "Monroe Development is at the center of it." She opened the case file and showed me surveillance photos of Jax meeting with various officials, bank records showing suspicious payments, transcripts of recorded conversations. "We know about the bribery, the contract manipulation, the witness intimidation. We know about your case and how it was handled." "Then why haven't you arrested anyone?" "Because we want the whole network, not just the small fish. And because we needed someone on the inside to help us build the case. Someone like me. Someone exactly like you. You have access to Jax's operation, you understand the system, and you have a very personal motivation to see justice done." I studied her face, looking for signs of deception. "What are you asking me to do?" "Help us get evidence that will hold up in court, testimony, documents, recordings. Everything you've been gathering on your own, but done legally this time. And in return?" "In return, we make sure the people who destroyed your life pay for what they've done, all of them." "Including Melissa?" "Especially Melissa. We know about her role in your frame-up, about her relationship with Prosecutor Walsh, about the forged documents. She's looking at federal charges for fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice." This was what I'd wanted to hear for 18 months. Official acknowledgement that I'd been wronged, that the system had failed me, that justice was still possible. "What do you need from me?" "We need you to go back to your security job and document everything you see. We need recordings of Jax's meetings, photographs of illegal activities, copies of incriminating documents. They know I broke into Jax's office. They'll be watching me now." "We know. That's why we're accelerating the timeline. We make our move within the next 2 weeks." Detective Ballard closed the case file and leaned forward. Nathan, I want you to understand something. This investigation isn't just about your case. Monroe Development has corrupted dozens of officials, stolen millions in public funds, and put people's lives at risk with substandard construction. You're not just getting revenge, you're serving justice. What about my safety? Jax's people have already threatened me. We'll provide protection when necessary, but you need to be careful. These people are dangerous when they're cornered. I agreed to help with the official investigation, but I kept my own plans to myself. The law moved slowly, and I was running out of patience. 2 days later, everything went to hell. I was at the construction site, working my regular security shift, when 3 black SUVs pulled up to the gate. 8 men got out, all wearing dark suits and earpieces. Professional security, the kind you hire when you want to send a message. Jack stepped out of the lead vehicle and walked toward the security trailer. I watched through the window as he approached, flanked by his guards. "Nathan Hale," he called out. "Come outside. We need to talk." I had a choice: face him now or try to run. Running would make me look guilty and weak. Facing him might get me killed, but it would give me a chance to learn what he knew. I opened the trailer door and stepped outside. Jax, little late for a business meeting, isn't it? It's never too late for business. Especially when that business involves theft, breaking and entering, and assault. I don't know what you're talking about. You broke into my office 3 nights ago. You stole confidential documents. You assaulted my security personnel. Prove it? Jack smiled, but there was no warmth in it. I don't have to prove it. I just have to act on it. His men spread out, surrounding me. Professional positioning, coordinated movement. These weren't street thugs. They were ex-military, probably mercenaries. Here's what's going to happen, Jax continued. You're going to return everything you stole from my office. You're going to stop harassing my associates and business partners. And you're going to disappear from this city permanently. Or what? Or you'll have an accident. A tragic, unavoidable accident that leaves you dead and discredited. Like you did to me before? No. Before, we gave you a chance to survive. This time, we won't be so generous. I looked around at his men, calculating angles and distances. 8 against 1, all of them armed, all of them professionals. The odds were impossible. I need time to think about it, I said. You have until tomorrow night, midnight. Return what you stole or face the consequences. Jax and his men climbed back into their SUVs and drove away, leaving me alone in the construction site with a death sentence hanging over my head. I called Detective Ballard from the trailer phone. They know, I said when she answered. Jax just threatened to eliminate me if I don't return the stolen documents. Where are you now? The construction site. But I don't think I should stay here. Get out of there immediately. Go to the Marriott downtown, room 412. We have it reserved under a false name. Stay there until I contact you. What about the investigation? The investigation just became a rescue operation. Move fast, Nathan. If Jax is making open threats, he's desperate. Desperate people do desperate things. I grabbed my few belongings from the trailer and drove toward downtown, checking my mirrors for pursuit. The streets seemed normal, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The Marriott room was small and anonymous, the kind of place federal agencies use for witness protection. I locked the door, closed the curtains, and tried to think. Jax had shown his hand by threatening me openly. That meant he was either very confident or very scared. Either way, it was dangerous for me, but it also meant I was winning. People don't make death threats unless they're losing control. My phone rang. The caller ID showed Amanda's number. Nathan? Thank God. Are you okay? I'm fine. Why? They took Isaac. Jax's men grabbed him outside his apartment tonight. His neighbor saw them force him into a van. My blood went cold. How do you know this? The neighbor called the police, and the police called me. I'm listed as an emergency contact because I helped Isaac with his gambling problem last year. Where is he now? Nobody knows. The police are treating it as a kidnapping, but they don't have any leads. Isaac was gone, probably dead. They'd taken him to send me a message. Cooperate or watch everyone who helped me suffer. Amanda, you need to get out of town immediately. Tonight. I'm not running, Nathan. I'm done running. This isn't about courage. This is about survival. If they took Isaac, They'll come for you next. Let them come. I've got a shotgun and the will to use it. This isn't a movie, Amanda. These are professional assassins. Then I guess we better stop them before they eliminate anyone else. She hung up before I could argue further. I sat in the hotel room staring at the walls, thinking about Isaac. A decent man who'd made some bad choices, now probably dead because he'd tried to help me. Another casualty in my war with Jax Monroe. But I wasn't backing down. Not now. Not after coming this far. It was time to end this, one way or another. Detective Ballard arrived at my hotel room at 6 a.m. with coffee and bad news. Isaac Reyes is dead, she said without preamble. They found his body in the river this morning. Single gunshot to the head, execution style. I felt the words hit me like a physical blow. Isaac, dead because he'd helped me. Another life destroyed by my quest for justice. We're moving up the timeline, Ballard continued. We arrest Jax and his associates today before anyone else gets killed. What about the investigation? You said you wanted the whole network. The network will have to wait. We can't let more people die. And what about Melissa? We'll get her too. The evidence you provided combined with what we already had is enough for multiple felony charges. Ballard spread photos on the hotel bed. Surveillance shots of Jax, Melissa, Prosecutor Walsh, and dozens of other officials. A rogues gallery of corruption. The arrests start at noon, she said. We'll take them simultaneously across the city. But we need you in protective custody until it's over. No, I want to be there when you arrest Melissa. That's not how this works, Nathan. You're a witness, not a cop. I'm the victim. I deserve to see justice done. Ballard studied my face. This isn't about justice anymore, is it? This is about revenge. Maybe they're the same thing. They're not. Justice is impartial. Revenge is personal. Then call it personal justice. There's no such thing. But I wasn't listening anymore. I had my own plans for Melissa. Plans that didn't involve waiting for the slow wheels of legal justice to turn. After Ballard left, I gathered the evidence I'd collected over the past months. Documents, recordings, photographs. Everything I needed to destroy Melissa's life the same way she destroyed mine. I drove to her office building and parked across the street, watching the entrance. At 11:45 a.m., just before the police raids were scheduled to begin, I walked into the lobby and took the elevator to the 7th floor. The receptionist recognized me. Mr. Hale, I don't think... Tell Melissa I'm here. Tell her it's about Isaac Reyes. The receptionist made the call, spoke quietly, then hung up. She'll see you in her office. Melissa's private office was larger than the conference room where we'd met before. Corner office, city view, expensive furniture. Everything she'd wanted and finally achieved. She was standing behind her desk when I entered, no longer the composed attorney from our previous meeting. She looked tired, stressed, maybe even scared. I heard about Isaac, she said. I'm sorry. Are you? Or are you just sorry he got caught in the crossfire? I never wanted anyone to get hurt. But you were willing to let it happen if it served your purposes. Melissa walked to the window and looked out at the city. What do you want, Nathan? Why are you here? I wanted to see your face when your world collapsed. My world? What are you talking about? I checked my watch. 11:58 a.m. In about 2 minutes, federal agents are going to arrest you for fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. You're going to be handcuffed, perp walked out of this building, and booked into the same county jail where I spent 18 months. Her face went white. You're lying. I'm not. They have everything, Melissa. The forged documents, the bribed witnesses, the evidence tampering. They have recordings of you planning my destruction with Jax and Prosecutor Walsh. Those recordings are illegal. They won't hold up in court. Some of them are illegal. Some of them aren't. Guess which ones the jury will hear. Melissa turned away from the window and faced me. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked vulnerable. Almost human. What do you want from me, Nathan? An apology? Remorse? What will it take to make this stop? Nothing will make it stop. This is justice, Melissa. This is what happens when you destroy an innocent man's life for money. I loved you once. No, you didn't. You loved what I could provide. When that wasn't enough, you found someone who could provide more. That's not true. It's completely true. And now you're going to pay for it. My watch showed 12 p.m. exactly. Through the office window, I could see police cars pulling up to the building. They're here, I said. Melissa looked out the window and saw the federal agents entering the building. Her legs gave out and she sat down heavily in her chair. 25 years, I said. That's what you're looking at. Federal time, no parole for the first 10 years. You'll be 63 when you get out, if you get out. Please, Nathan, there has to be another way. There was another way. You could have divorced me honestly. You could have left me with my career, my reputation, my dignity. But you chose to destroy me instead. The office door opened and 3 federal agents entered. Lead agent showed his badge to Melissa. Melissa Hale, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to violate civil rights under color of law. They read her rights as they handcuffed her. She didn't resist, didn't protest, just stared at me with a mixture of hatred and disbelief. This isn't over, she said as they led her toward the door. Yes, it is. I watched them take her away, feeling something I hadn't felt in 18 months, satisfaction, not happiness, not joy, but the cold satisfaction of a debt paid in full. The arrests made the evening news. Jax Monroe, prosecutor David Walsh, 3 city council members, 2 judges, and a dozen other officials. The biggest corruption scandal in the city's history. Melissa's perp walk was the lead story on every channel. The beautiful attorney who'd fallen from grace, handcuffed and humiliated, led away in chains. I watched it all from my hotel room, drinking whiskey and remembering the man I used to be. Nathan Hale, building inspector, devoted husband, law-abiding citizen. That man was dead, killed by betrayal and injustice. In his place was someone harder, colder, more dangerous. Someone who understood that the world was full of predators and sometimes you had to become a predator yourself to survive. Detective Ballard called at 9 p.m. It's over, she said. We got them all. Monroe, your ex-wife, Walsh, the whole network? What about Amanda? She's safe, in protective custody until the trials begin. And George? Back in town, he wants to see you. Where? Murphy's Bar. Where this all started. George was waiting in our old booth, looking relieved but exhausted. The stress of the last few weeks had aged him, carved new lines in his face. Hell of a thing, he said as I sat down. 27 arrests, millions in seized assets, 3 judges removed from the bench. What about Isaac? His funeral is Thursday. The department is paying for it, calling him a hero who died helping expose corruption. He was a hero. He died because he tried to do the right thing, like you did. No, I did this for revenge, not justice. Isaac did it for justice. George signaled the bartender for another round. Does it matter? The end result is the same. It matters to me. What will you do now? That was the question I'd been avoiding. What did a man do after he destroyed everyone who'd wronged him? What was left when revenge was complete? I don't know, I said honestly. Start over, I guess. Find a new city, a new job, a new life. Or you could stay here. The city's going to need a new building inspector. Someone honest, someone who can't be bought. They'd never hire me. Ex-convict, reputation destroyed, too much baggage. Your conviction will be overturned. Full pardon, record expunged, reputation restored. The governor is already talking about it. And Melissa. 20 to 25 years if she's lucky. Walsh got 30 years. Jax got life without parole for Isaac's murder. Life without parole. Jax would die in prison, alone and forgotten. It was more justice than I dared to hope for. There's something else, George said. They found your car. My Mustang? Locked in a storage unit Jax owned. Pristine condition, like he was keeping it as a trophy. My 1967 Mustang, the car I'd restored with my own hands, the symbol of better times. Melissa had told me it was sold, but Jax had kept it like a prize from his victory over me. You can pick it up tomorrow, George said. Evidence locker released it this afternoon. We drank in silence for a while, 2 old friends who'd been through hell together. The bar was quiet, just a few regulars watching sports on the TV. Normal people living normal lives, unaware of the war that had been fought around them. I'm sorry about Isaac, George said finally. Me too. He didn't deserve what happened to him. None of us deserved what happened. But we survived, and they didn't. That counts for something. Maybe it did. Maybe survival was its own form of victory. 6 months later, I stood in the courthouse where my life had been destroyed, watching Melissa receive her sentence. 23 years in federal prison, no possibility of parole for the first 12 years. She looked different now. Prison uniform instead of designer suits, no makeup, hair pulled back severely. The transformation from successful attorney to convicted felon was complete. When the judge asked if she had anything to say before sentencing, she stood up and looked directly at me. "I want to apologize," she said, her voice barely audible. "To my former husband, to the victims of my crimes, to everyone I hurt. I made terrible choices, and I accept full responsibility for the consequences." It was a good speech, probably coached by her attorney. But I could see in her eyes that she didn't mean it. She was sorry she got caught, sorry she was going to prison, but not sorry for what she'd done to me. That was fine. I didn't need her apology anyway. After the sentencing, I walked out of the courthouse into bright sunlight. My Mustang was parked at the curb, restored to its original glory. The car that represented everything I'd lost and now had back. Detective Ballard was waiting by the car. "How does it feel?" she asked. "Like justice? And revenge? Maybe they're the same thing after all." She handed me a business card. "The FBI is forming a new anti-corruption task force. We could use someone with your experience and motivation." I looked at the card. Special Agent Nathan Hale. It had a nice ring to it. "I'll think about it," I said. "Don't think too long. There are a lot of corrupt officials out there who need to be stopped, and a lot of innocent people who need someone to fight for them." Exactly. I got in the Mustang and started the engine. The rumble of the V8 was like music, a sound I'd thought I'd never hear again. Everything I'd lost had been returned to me one way or another. As I drove away from the courthouse, I passed the construction site where I'd worked security for Jax Monroe. It was abandoned now, half-finished buildings standing like monuments to corruption and greed. A sign on the fence read, "Property of the federal government, seized assets." Justice had been served. The guilty had been punished. The system, broken as it was, had eventually worked. But I knew the truth that Detective Ballard was only beginning to understand. There would always be more corrupt officials, more innocent victims, more people who thought they were above the law. And there would need to be people willing to stop them, no matter the cost. I drove through the city streets, past the places where my old life had been destroyed and my new life had been forged. The courthouse where I'd been convicted and vindicated. The jail where I'd lost my innocence. The construction site where I'd begun my revenge. All of it was behind me now. I pulled into the parking lot of the FBI field office and sat in the car for a moment, engine running, thinking about the future. I could take the job with the task force, spend my life hunting corrupt officials and protecting innocent people. Or I could disappear, start over somewhere else, try to find peace. But peace was overrated, justice was better. I turned off the engine and walked toward the FBI building, Detective Ballard's business card in my hand. There was work to do, and I was the right man to do it. Behind me, the Mustang sat in the parking lot, waiting for its next mission, a symbol of what had been lost and what had been recovered. A reminder that sometimes justice and revenge were the same thing, and sometimes that was enough. The account was settled. The books were balanced. The guilty had paid their debts in full. And Nathan Hale, former building inspector, former convict, former victim, walked into his new life with his head held high and his conscience clear.